what I realized is that I was singing along to Wu-Tang. Right?
Yes.
I was singing along to it.
Great. Do you remember when we saw them at the comedy festival and they had to perform at 5 fucking p.m. and then comedians performed after Wu-Tang and the whole world was wrong?
It really was. But I discovered that every single time they say the N-word, right? Instead of me saying it as I'm rapping along.
Yeah, what do you say?
Change it to fella. Shame on a fella who's trying to run games on a fella. And then what you have to do is you have to then add like stuff to it. I mean, sometimes you have to change the other words to make that rhyme seem
How did
work.
you make it Italian?
Well, no, fella is like,
You fella.
because I know that that's what they mean, right? It's a
Right.
fellow.
Sure, yes.
Someone
mate.
they know. A mate.
partner.
Yeah,
Yes,
a
a
partner.
buddy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So that's why every single time I run across the N-word in a song, you just throw
Fella.
a fella in there. Because then it's
Yeah.
friendly. It's more friendly. And I feel like in the end, isn't that what the rappers really wanted? They wanted like more,
Absolutely.
like they wanted to be more approachable.
I mean, for some reason, fellas with attitude sounds, again, just like it sounds like a sandwich shop.
Fellas
But
with attitude.
fellas
sounds
with
like,
attitude.
you know how they give like dumb groups in Congress like nicknames?
Oh, yes.
Like that's what that sounds like. Fellas with attitude.
Fellas with attitude.
The guy's like, they're really fighting for an extra electrical vehicle lane in the highways. I mean, who fucking knows?
Fellas with attitudes. Well, speaking of fellas with attitudes, welcome to Side Stories. Ben hanging out with Henry. Hope everyone's doing well out there.
They better be.
You all are certainly going to be doing better than Gary Glitter. Oh my God. How long was Gary Glitter out of jail for?
He was out of jail for 30 days.
Okay.
Now, Gary Glitter, the
Speaking
what
of
we
old school rock stars.
Yes, that is kind of where this all started, was that Gary Glitter we covered, he got let out of jail on a 2015 charge. I believe it was for
Pedophilia.
Pedophilia.
Yes.
It wasn't good.
No.
And so he was out of jail. It was 38 days. He got out. They immediately scooped him back up because he was discovered, and immediately he was recorded on a cell phone. I don't know
Right.
whether or not somebody was either, as they should have, immediately narked him out, or if he recorded himself on his cell phone.
He's probably on probation, so they're
No,
probably recording him.
He is not supposed to be anywhere near a computer. Right?
No.
Like, that's the whole thing. He's not supposed to be anywhere near a computer. And he immediately asked someone, how do I get on The Onion?
Now, The Onion, it's not that satirical magazine from
No.
back in the day, which is doing okay if you want to have a good laugh.
Oh, it's
Of
very
course,
funny.
Real headlines these days are goofier than fiction. But
It's almost maddening. It's
really
almost
is.
at a point where it started like throwing everything into chaos about how, like, because then where does satire lie if every single thing is fucking over the top and everybody's a maniac?
But isn't it nice, Mr. Zabrowski, to have a little bit of just Gary Glitter still a pedophile? You know, if
Something
he
stays the
changed,
same.
if all of a sudden he changed,
Yeah, I'll be like,
and next thing you know, he's in the Senate, and he's like, I'm so sorry, be like, what's wrong? So Gary Glitter, doing what Gary Glitter does, immediately searched The Onion, which is evidently, this is a deep, what is this?
Well, let's go. Oh, God.
I know
This
that
is
you
Fernando,
know.
I could see his face, like the flutes for a second. Just 1 second of flutes.
Okay, let's get the flutes. What's your BP right now?
Now, my BP is back to normal. I'm back to normal.
Congratulations.
I'm at 140/65.
Wow.
And you can feel me. Look, you can feel the calm radiating.
You do
off.
seem calmer. Yeah, be crazy, but calm.
But Gary Glitter wanted to go upon The Onion. Now, The Onion is what's called a deep web account.
this
It's a tour website. That
Wait
you
a
go
second.
to.
Do you remember in Shrek? He talked about how he was like an onion. Was that a secret pedophilic message that Hollywood was sending to our children? Continue.
But see, inherently, Tor is not necessarily bad, right? Because it's neutral. It's supposed to be a place where you can go. It's in an encrypted form of the internet. That's what they call like there was whatever the term you'd call either the deep internet or the dark web, whatever you
want to call it. Dateline will be like, your kids are on it. You better be scared.
It's true. But my understanding is that it is a type of browser that you have access to an encrypted version of the internet. And so in that encrypted version of the internet, yes, is there true political freedom, right? They talk about this is how people like in various groups, they're inside of like regimes. Like this is how like people in North Korea speak. This is how people inside of Iran speak. They can use these tools, right?
He's not in the middle of Myanmar. He's not in the middle of a civil war. No. Gary Glitter isn't using it for
He's
that
in a mansion built by pedophile money.
Right.
Right. And so then he decided to get back into it. And so when he says it, but it is also, yes, it is a place where you could go and you could buy drugs or, the 3D printing instructions for guns, or you could buy all this. It's all in there. It's all up in there.
Also,
and so,
it's just like, it's not. I get the 3D printing of a gun if it was hard to get a gun.
Yeah,
but
you just get a gun.
You got it. You don't have to 3D print it.
We've now seen several mass shootings that have happened using 3D printed parts for guns because it's what helps them to not get tracked.
The future.
The future is fascinating. But Gary Glitter just immediately said to the man that was with, he said, "Shall I get rid of this duck?" And a companion replied, "Yeah, I wouldn't bother using that." And Glitter responds, "So what do I do next? Let's try and find this onion." Now, DuckDuck is a reference to a search engine which also has high levels of privacy.
Okay.
That's also true. So he was just immediately looking to suck on some kids' feet.
Well,
and he wanted to get that zip, zap, zop. He wanted to get that done. He wanted a priority serve. And I'm sorry, the Postmates doesn't do that, Gary.
No, they don't. And I'm starting to think this guy is a little bit of a predator.
He might be.
So there is no such thing as private internet anymore.
Well,
right? Because isn't it the same thing where we always talk about,
you can
though,
get
where it's like if you try to find a hitman, it's a cop.
Well,
like if you are on the Onion, isn't it? Yes, it's encrypted. But isn't it mostly just FBI? Or whatever, if he's in Europe, whatever the hell they have over there?
I actually don't. You hear a lot of conflicting things. Again, because of the straight neutrality of it, you're just sort of taking that into account, I imagine, that's kind of what you are involving yourself with, and that at every level that you are doing something that is truly criminal, you can probably safely imagine that it's half intelligence agency or the FBI or the DEA or like any one of those places, which as I believe that they should be, but it's also where you can meet people and then you can go off the internet entirely and do this thing that we used to do as kids call meet up in a parking lot behind a McDonald's and get stuff done just in the back of a Tiguan. You remember we covered how the Tiguan is
the Tiguan, absolutely. So Gary Glitter's real name, Paul Gadd, he was sentenced to 16 years because he was sexually abusing all these girls, 3 specifically in the 1970s, and I'm sure that's literally the tip of the iceberg. He only did half the sentence, and they just released him early in February. I'm starting to think the parole board, did he sing for them? At what point did the parole board be like, Gary, you're clean?
I don't know.
Aren't you supposed to wait until you're pretty certain they're not going to do it again? Because he did it just really fast. It's kind of an indictment on the system.
It happened real fast because he was originally in jail in Thailand. I know that he went to Thailand and he was one of those.
You know how bad
he loved it there a little too much.
You have to be so bad if the Thailand, because they were like, they turn the other cheek. They're like, I understand tourism. We get why you're here. He must have been so egregious that they had to incarcerate him.
I don't know. This is a long story. It's a very fucked up story. You should actually, if you want to, I'm not going to go recount all of Gary Glitter's crimes. He did a bunch of fucked up shit.
Yeah, he did.
And then he was released because he had high blood pressure.
He
got out of a work release. He got out of like having to do, this is one little thing, I'm just on his Wikipedia, that one thing that popped up was like he got out of manual labor because he had high blood pressure. So
everyone in prison has high blood pressure. It's very stressful.
It's very stressful.
So
it's so hard to find a pan flute that's not connected to a guy named Pan. You know what I mean? Like when
that
you're in
ain't
jail.
a flute, baby.
Come on.
So according to the Ministry of Justice, they said sex offenders like Paul Gadd are closely monitored by the police and probation services and face some of the strictest license conditions, including being fitted with a GPS tag, which you also are fitted with if you have an Apple Watch or you're holding the exact phone that I'm holding now.
What it says right here, I do think is interesting. As a result of his sexual offenses convictions, you will find that episodes of Top of the Pops where Glitter was on them, they don't repeat them anymore.
It's really sad.
Yeah, wow.
Top of the Pops.
They're erasing history.
Maybe they shouldn't have named it the exact activity that these poor girls were doing. And it's bad. So anyway.
Is that what Hop on Pop is about?
Yeah, what was that other guy we talked about the other day that just died that was also in with fucking Jimmy Savile, the musician?
We just covered him. I forget
Some
who.
asshole.
Another guy where they all just hang out. They all hung out. They're all like this except the pure lands of Hollywood, California.
Yes. So according to Richard Scorer A lawyer, no, that's a joke. According
Yes.
to Richard Scorer, a lawyer representing one of the victims of GAD, he says that he's never admitted his offenses. He's never even apologized, and he's never shown remorse. So why did he get out?
I don't
I
know.
thought you had to go grovel to these people.
I think that in the UK,
Why didn't they bring out? They should have brought out a sex doll of a child and be like Gary, and then put a little string to his dick. And if the bell rings, it means his dinghy's moving. And then he's back in jail.
That's real. You know that's real, right?
No, I don't know that's real.
Louis Theroux covered he went to Louis Theroux is a documentarian, one of my favorite. I love him. He went and he spoke to I forget what the name of his series was, but he talked to people that nobody wants to talk to. It was like he was talking to extremists. And one is he went to what is one of these, it's like a halfway house. It is a high protection, essentially mental hospital / prison for pedophiles and sex offenders.
Yes.
And one of the things they do to see how far along you are in therapy is they put you in a little theater where they attach a ring around the tip of your dick, right?
Mama.
That's attached to a string, attached to an aluminum string. This is real. And then they show
It's like Clockwork Orange.
Yes. And they show you footage of little kids getting sprayed with hoses, eating hot dogs, jumping rope, wearing swimsuits and shit. And they see if your dick bounces at all. And that's how they can tell whether or not all the stuff's working.
So again,
this is the top of the show.
3 Thanksgivings ago, I interviewed a therapist for
I'll never forget.
non-offending sexual predators.
Now, didn't he say the big thing to do was puzzles? Right?
I don't know.
That puzzles really fixed it. And then,
But I don't think that part goes away.
Well,
I think it's
the idea.
brain. You have to just be like, and now my brain has to take over for my little brain and say, no.
Well, you need to probably be chemically castrated, especially if you're a pedophile.
Lordy.
I know that, again, hot topics, really intense opinions, but I do believe that if you are on some level a child, if you're a sex offender that works on children and like a child, make a molest, you're probably going to need some chemical help to not want to do that anymore. But yes, Gary Glitter,
Whoa.
I don't think he's on any of that.
Well, anyway.
Because he just jumped right. He was just in jail for this shit.
Gary Glitter, best known for his song Rock and Roll Part 2. Do you know what movie that was just featured in?
What?
Joker.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I don't think he's allowed to get the residuals anymore. I think it all goes to Corey Feldman's house. I think he's the last.
Just in general. Just
stupid.
all class action lawsuits against anyone in the business.
Just give him a dime.
He was also a representative for Snapper Music. This is all lying in plain sight. It's all right here. Oh, yes, to your point, he has not owned the rights to his song since 1997.
But I think he sold them and made money on them.
Oh, my God. He was sentenced to 3 years in Vietnam as well.
You know what? We'll jump right to this.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think he's good.
No, I don't think he's good.